Have you ever been in a situation where you are very upset, you are angry, and yet you know that there's little or nothing that you can do about it? I mean, my father had taken 6 pints of blood, 6 pints of blood already, and yet he wasn't getting any better. At a point, I was like, what was actually even making me upset? Is it the fact that my father is ill? Or the state of the ward he was in? That ward that he shared with 18 other people had only 2 nurses. 2 nurses to cater to 19 men. That meant that 1 nurse was responsible for 9 men. I mean, how could I have even imagined it, that my father would be in hospital at such a time as this? He was 74 years, but I talked to him about 4 or 5 times a week. I still spoke to him on a Friday. And then by Sunday after church, I call, and my mom picks up the call. And I'm like, Mommy, where is Daddy? She usually would never pick his call, even if he's not there. She would look at the caller ID, maybe cut it, and then use her own phone to call me back. She would not answer my father's call. So for her to answer his call, I knew that something was just not right. But I relaxed. I always pride myself in the fact that, I'm the chill one, I'm the reasonable one. I can always use my, I do well under pressure. This time around, no, I didn't. I don't think I did that well. I call again a couple of hours after, and then she says to me, your father is sleeping. And I looked at my husband and said, Daddy, I have to travel. Something is not quite right. And then, I relayed all that, just the conversation I had with my mom with him. And then the very next morning, very early in the morning, I was on my way to my hometown. I live in Lagos. Lagos is about 6.5 hours away from my hometown. And I left the motor park at about 7:15. That means I should have gotten home at about 2-3. I did not get home that night until past 11 p.m. The journey was terrible. We had car trouble, we had police trouble, we had fuel trouble. At a point, we even disembarked from that vehicle and put into another one. But you know what? I just made up my mind that even if you're going to be for a few hours or days I would have with this man, I would give him my best. And I needed to get to the bottom of this. I get home and I run towards him, rush towards him, go to his room, kneel down to greet him. And then I noticed my father was just staring at me. He was just staring at me. He didn't say a word. This part, his right side, he could not move his right side. Of course, that's his functional side. So he could not even lift his hand to put his hand on me to say welcome. I look at my mom. I'm like, Mom, what happened? And then she says he fell in the bathroom. And he had a cut to his head, and he had blood and everything. It's like concoction, and that they had sewn it, sewed it up. I stood up, went to look at his head, and saw the cuts that had been sewed up, and then I just noticed that there was a stand in the house. There was a pint of blood that had been used up, and I said to her, "Blood? You mean it's this bad? Why didn't you just tell us? Why didn't you tell my siblings and I about how bad it really is?" And she says that she just, Daddy is stubborn. He said he wasn't going anywhere. And at the time that he fell, he could still talk, and that he told her he wasn't going to the hospital. So the doctor actually came home to see him. I don't know how I slept that night. I made it to the morning. In the morning, I called my siblings, all around Abuja, some abroad, and I called them to say, this is what is happening. And early that morning, I take my father to a hospital in another town, because my own village did not have a functional hospital that could take care of that severity. We take him to the hospital. He's wheeled in a wheelchair. He's wheeled to a room and put on the bed. And then I raise my eye and see the general ward with about 19 other men. And then I go to the nurse and say to her, "Can we please get a single ward?" And she says back to me, "No. For critical cases, we have to put them in general ward so that we can see them at a glance. When he gets better, I'll move him to a single ward." I said, "Okay." And then I realized that there were only 2 nurses the entire time. 2 nurses catered to these 19 men. There's something very darkly interesting about that experience. You know, there was no water in that place. There was only one tap that was running. So we all had to go and queue whenever we pumped water. So for many hours, there will be no water. I had to tell my brother to get me pure water. We call it pure water. Water in sachets. I got 14 bags of those. And then I would open them and put them in a bucket to clean him up every day. I did that morning and night. And I used that same water to wash his bed sheets. They only gave us 2 bed sheets, which was fine. And you know, at a point, my brother had to go to town. He was shuffling from town to the hospital, and he would go to the town and he would get bed sheets. He got a fabric and sewed different bed sheets, many, some for us, some for other patients in the ward that could not afford to get bed sheets. We became like family, all 19 of us, caregiver and patients. We became literally family. We would laugh at the darkest of jokes. There was a man beside my father's bed that had diabetes, that had diabetes, and the doctor informed that they would have to amputate his leg. And in spite of that news, this man would laugh and laugh at himself. His wife, he had 3 wives, by the way. His first wife was the only one that was staying with him. Apparently, the other 2 wives had run away. So his wife would laugh at him and poke him and say, "Shebi, you went to go and marry 2 wives. Where are they now?" And then he would laugh. And then he was like, "That is why you are going to have your leg cut. Now that your leg is going to be cut, I'm going to be the only one staying with you." And then there was this other man that the entire days I was there, not one person came to see him. And what people said was that he was a wicked man. And so his children left him there. They just came, dropped him literally and left. Nobody was seeing him. Nobody was catering to his food. So automatically I had to share whatever food I had for my father with him. So I was sharing water, sharing my food, sharing my toiletries, sharing my provisions, literally everything with the other people in the world. I'm telling you, we became family. It's interesting how dark times bring people together. There was this one guy too that was a drug addict, and he was having some kind of episode, and so there was a policeman that was detailed to stay with him. Then he had chains on his body attached to the bed, and then he would scream at very odd times when people were trying to sleep. But you know what, at a point we all kind of like understood. Nobody was getting angry anymore. We accepted our fates and could just wish and pray for the best, that everyone here would live whole and healthy and better than they came. And so in a couple of days, my dad began to get better. You know, he would do this. He would apply pressure to his hand. He still couldn't talk, but he was getting better. And every day I would ask the doctor when it was okay for me to move him. I couldn't just wait to leave that place, but not before spending 9 full days in that environment of no water, no light. My brother would always have to take the rechargeable lamp to go and charge, and then bring it back for me in the night to use. And then my other siblings everywhere were very agitated, obviously, and you know, afraid of what would happen because they could not be there. So I was their eyes, I was their ears. Whatever was happening, I had to relate to them. And as a team that we are, we're able to help him through that time until he was okay enough to be moved. And then we moved him to Lagos, and then he got the attention he needed, the CT scans. Of course, he repeatedly tried all the tests again until he got better. And the amazing thing is, he's now on his feet. He even jogs now. I mean, amazing, isn't it? I mean, the beauty of humanity, in spite of, we have this resilience, this power to laugh, to live in the face of death. My name is Boluwatiwi Ayo-Opaleke. Thank you for listening to my story.